welcome to the first episode of our Expert Chat series. Today, I'm very excited to have amongst us Rakesh Kotwani. Rakesh is always willing to push boundaries, challenge the status quo, and explore new territory. When the trend is to talk of more of everything, Rakesh says that by following his passion, a lot of things have actually decreased for him, like his bank balance, weight, and stress, among others. While everybody is busy adding titles to the LinkedIn profile, Rakesh's one says, nobody. But going by his accomplishments, he is far from a nobody. Rakesh is the founder of School of Meaningful Experiences, is a professor at IIM Bangalore and IIM Udaipur, and has authored 4 books. Welcome, Rakesh.
Thank you for having me, Suman.
Great. So one of the things that I would really like to do is to getting to know our guest before we start. Rakesh, we are really looking forward to hearing from you about charismatic leadership, an area that you teach and research. But before that, if you can just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you, that would be great.
Sure. So I think my background from an education perspective is that, like most of us who come from an education system where we are forced into choosing certain streams, I also had no choice but to eliminate career choices by what I didn't like. And I didn't like to study biology. I didn't like to study commerce. So that left just the option of taking mathematics and then writing an engineering exam. So I did a computer engineering degree, and luckily was at a time when India was booming into software jobs. And most of my friends, when they decided to go to America and write postgraduate exams like CAT and GATE, I decided to work, and I came to Wipro in Bangalore, had a very steep career graph. I was one of those few lucky ones who grew very fast, and then did the 3-year part-time MBA program from IIM Bangalore because I clearly didn't want to become a banker or a consultant. I was very happy being in technology and sales and biz dev. So I was rewarded very well after I finished my PGSM program at IIM Bangalore. And I think that's where my connection with our institute has been that of tremendous amount of respect and gratitude and love towards this place. My last job was Qualcomm, and somewhere in 2007, I looked back at my life and career, and by that time I had 2 careers. Monday to Friday, I was this very successful corporate rat and earning ton of money. And from an outside perspective, this is exactly what I wanted to do when I was doing my MBA. I was on the road to become a vice president and a CEO, hopefully, if I would have survived. But I was extremely bored and disillusioned. And I had a second job. From 1999, I started teaching on weekends. And it started by me enjoying this whole aspect of helping someone else on how to speak and communicate clearly, because I grew very fast because of communication. And not that I was just a smart speaker, I also walked the talk. That means I could speak and demonstrate results. And I figured out that this seems to be the only requirement in the world when you do business or relationships, and you have to manage trust and emotions. And this is broadly called communication. So I started teaching that, and that was an extremely fulfilling job and career. So that was on weekends. And so my weekends were much more exciting than weekdays, though weekdays gave me a lot of money and weekends didn't. So one day I decided that, okay, I think I've had it. I was 30, 31 at that time. And I took a plunge without even a backup plan and cooled off for 2 months. Walked up to IIM Bangalore, the director, and said, I'm ready to become a teacher. And he laughed and he's like, you just can't walk up and become a teacher or a professor. And by the way, I'm not a professor. I'm an adjunct professor, which in the caste system of professorship is a very lowly ranked person. And the academia is like that. It's a very funny place and it doesn't bother me. And I think I started teaching from 2011 and haven't looked back since. And 2 years ago, when I finished my PhD in communication, because I really wanted to learn where is communication gone, why aren't we giving importance to this subject, And the PhD program helped me connect communication to charismatic leadership. And that gave me the kick that, okay, I think now I have to take this subject forward and give it the status it deserves. And I was convinced that I can't do it in an academic institute, because then you become a part of the politics of the place, and you end up writing papers that nobody reads, and you just protect your tenureship. And it didn't bother me because I had left that corporate job about 12 years ago. So becoming one more corporate person in a university system didn't excite me. So I broke my provident fund. That was the last saving I had kept for my children's education. It's gone. And started School of Meaningful Experiences, because when I look at my country and the students and all of us, we are brilliant when it comes to memorizing and writing an exam. But when it comes to entering a meeting room and expressing ourselves and changing them, because that's what is important, we fall flat. And this is nothing but a simple problem that we haven't been taught communication when we were in schools. And unfortunately, because of our colonial history, English language is considered communication skills, and it's not. And School of Meaningful Experiences was started to create that system in the country where I can at least offset that gap by providing very well thought scientific communication courses for teenagers and young adults. So we work with teenagers between 13 and 19 till about 20 to 30. And now I'm a struggling entrepreneur. This is my fourth plunge now, from corporate to teaching to researcher to now an entrepreneur. And I think you can call me one of the most confused persons in life, and it's evolving every day as it goes along.
That was wonderful, Rakesh. So, getting into the topic of charismatic leadership, maybe you can tell us a little bit about what is charisma to you?
See, if you look at dictionary and basics of charisma, charisma is nothing but, it can be interpreted as a charming personality. So it is directly connected to the word personality. And if you look at certain people, they do tend to create an aura. And if you go deeper and deeper on this question, that why are some people more charismatic than others, that started fascinating me. And I started looking at it from a communication perspective, that if I look at TED Talks, why are some TED speakers better than the others? And there are so many explanations. So that became the starting point of my research and PhD studies. So to give you in a plain vanilla simple definition which your viewers can understand, because it's too theoretical, and I will not go into theory. In a very common parlance, if a person is attracted to someone else, that attraction is a part of this giant word called charisma. And the historical roots of this word called charismatic person or charismatic leadership comes from someone who had a tremendous amount of magnetism, which was again a very global, a cloudy word. Nobody really understands what it is. But to give you a simple understanding, that when somebody is a magnetic personality, people tend to follow that person, and people are attracted towards that person. And the other word which is commonly used for charismatic personalities is that they have amazing stage presence. And all of this combined becomes a subject which, on one side, finds its home in a theory called transformational leadership, because these people change people very easily, and then leads into this whole amazing subject where you can learn it from a communication perspective, you can learn it from influence perspective, you can learn from leadership perspective. So what I did was I combined all of this, and I tried to answer a simple question, that if I want to become charismatic, what is that answer? And to give you a very simple summary of my entire research is, am I born charismatic or can I learn it? And my answer is, you can learn it. In fact, it's a very dangerous subject, that you can also fake it. And there are lots of examples of how somebody can fake charisma. And the world is very smart. The world will figure out over time that is this guy consistent or is this guy fake. So this subject then goes deeper into behavioral science. It can go deeper into psychology. It can reach all kinds of all pervasive philosophical discussions as well. So, summary of your question: charisma is nothing but attraction and magnetism, which will create followers in your leadership career.
Okay. No, so that's a very interesting thing that you mentioned about can it be learned or is it something inborn? And we'll come back to that.
Yeah.
One of the things that's coming to my mind is the way you described it. It's about magnetism. It is obviously very relevant for people in senior positions, people who are trying to influence change, who have a lot of people who's working for them. But is it really important for all of us? I mean, if it is, why is it important? Like, can I also have charisma? And if I do, how does it benefit me?
I think that's the heart of all of our purpose. That if I look at a very simple definition of why we are so attracted to leadership, I think the simple answer is all of us have an innate desire to be successful. Now, to be successful, there is a lots of things we have to do, and one of the simplest words I connect on charismatic leadership is that you have to change people in front of you, and to change you have to influence them. And influence is that single word which will create your success or not. So for example, let's say I'm a 21-year-old about to come out of college and I have a job interview. If in that job interview I demonstrate characteristics of charisma, chances are I'll get that job interview a lot faster. And it does influence the decision of the other person. So it is imperative for all of us to understand that our innate desire to be successful is directly connected to this subject. And the reason it is directly connected is that when the other person is deciding whether you're a good person or not, it's a very judgmental process. And in that judgmental process, if you as a candidate can plan better, your chances of getting that success is higher. And this subject is not only applicable in a 21-year-old's life, it is pervasive in politics. So if you want the vote, you need to be very charismatic. It is pervasive in military studies that if you want people to stand up and fight, you have to inspire them and stand up and speak. If you want to be a person who is, let's say, into social changes or business changes, you have to just start doing things that create the change. So when you become a CEO, at that point, it is very easy to understand their charismatic qualities because we have about 20-30 years of history which creates this machine. But at the age of 21, all of that is not there. In fact, now at the age of 15, we start working on these things. Many schools talk about leadership skills these days. And the whole idea is to help a teen or a learner understand that, hey, your personality is a very important part of your leadership. And if you can be a little bit more aware of your charisma towards others, it will help you decide your actions so that the other person gets influenced. And if they get influenced, you become more successful. Now, having said that, this subject is also extremely dangerous because if you take a positive side of this subject, you can say it is charismatic leadership, influence. But the same subject can be used in propaganda manipulation. Yeah. And if you have heard the word frauds, to give you example of Casanova, Charles Shobraj, and if you're following these latest examples in entrepreneurship, Adam Newman of WeWork and Elizabeth Holmes of Theranos. And they use charismatic qualities to sometimes fool people. And fooling people is a very big part of charismatic studies. And these studies have been there for at least 2000 years. And let me quiz you. Can you guess a subject where this topic has been used time and again in history over the last 2000 years besides politics? What would that subject be where charismatic leadership is very, very visible?
Is it religion?
Absolutely right. Charismatic leadership concepts have been used in religion for centuries. And that's why I'm a little more worried about this subject, that this subject, while can be extremely beneficial to the career of a human being, it can also be misused and can be dangerous for the society. So we have to use it with a pinch of salt and be very ethical in bringing this subject and its concepts to a positive impact for the society.
One of the areas we work on is executive presence. And listening to you, it seems to me there's a fair amount of overlap between charisma and executive presence. In the sense, it's similar because both of them really determine whether you're taken seriously, to put it very simply. Right?
Yeah.
But in executive presence, there's one component of gravitas, which is really about the image that you have, the perception people have about you before you even enter the room. Right. So to that extent, it's not so much only, it's not only personality, it's also substance. Do people trust you? Do you deliver what you say you will deliver? So just wanted to get your views on that. First of all, how do you see these two, executive presence and charisma? Are they similar? Are they different? What are your views on that?
So to answer that question, I think charisma is pretty much the big ball of subject where the foundations of this concept comes from. And I talked about stage presence, and that stage presence has now become a modern definition of executive presence. So many modern academicians have started taking the concepts of charismatic leadership and packaged into a new form of executive presence. Now, executive presence has three elements. The first is appearance, and appearance plays a critical role in how people perceive you. The second is communication, and the third is gravitas. And in gravitas, they look at various parameters. The one thing that I talk a lot these days is your knowledge. And if you increase your knowledge, and this happens over a period of time, which means you have to walk the talk consistently so that your gravitas is built. I talk to my students about this, that imagine gravitas like a big pot, and you have to keep putting one drop of gravitas every day, which kind of fills it up. And over years and decades, people start looking at you as a great person with lots of qualities, consistent behavior, ethical thinking, traits like he comes on time. And you'll start listening from the people itself, because they are the kind of followers who start talking about you, that this person is always on time, this person remembers everybody's names. And all of that are elements of executive presence and gravitas that impact the other person, and then they get influenced a lot by these kind of people. So to summarize, to me, they are exactly the same. Charismatic leadership is probably a bigger theoretical foundation. Executive presence is a much more capsule approach towards something that can be learned very quickly by a person who's working in an organization or as an entrepreneur, so that he can become a lot more successful.
Okay. Great, Rakesh. As we come towards the end, is there one message that you would like to leave our audience with?
So I have become an evangelist of communication and confidence and curiosity and creativity and collaboration and competence. That's the work I do. And that's what I want to leave with all your viewers and your friends, that I think we have given a lot of time in investing on hard skills. So a lot of knowledge about subjects which are very heavy. But I think I would like to encourage all of you to start thinking that what really matters at that minute is your connection with the other human being. And that connection comes from very simple things like how you behave, how you communicate, and how you make the other person feel. And if all of us can spend little time on these subjects, I think I can guarantee you all of us will become a lot more successful and this world.
Wonderful. With that, I'd like to bring this talk to an end. Thank you. Thank you so much, Rakesh. I really enjoyed listening to your thoughts on charisma and charismatic leadership and presence. For our listeners, thank you so much for listening in.
Thank you, Suman.